In a span of a couple of weeks, support for the recall effort against Governor Gavin Newsom is continuing to grow. In the latest Inside California Politics Emerson College poll, 46% of California voters would recall Newsom. 48% would not, with 6% undecided. The new poll also revealed Larry Elder is increasing his lead among the recall candidates, but 40% of voters are still undecided. Polls, 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 and more polls. Let's welcome back our panel for the week, Amanda Renteria and Tom Del Beccaro. So how much trust should we put into all of these polls? One consistency I have seen, guys, is the margin of error in question is now shrinking. More support to the recall for the governor, against the governor, grows, and seemingly we've seen some different numbers when it comes to support for the recall candidates. So, Amanda, should we trust the polls, or is it just fodder?
I think if there's anything we've learned over the last several election cycles is that polls are all over the place, and we are in different times right now. Not only is it all mail ballots now, we're kind of in this uncertain world of the pandemic. But listen, Biden won by more than I think it was 68%. Newsom won the first time around in the 60s. That's a very, very tough to believe you can recall in that kind of environment when everyone is going to get a ballot. I think the numbers aren't there.
You know, I even saw on one poll, I think it was a San Diego Union Tribune, where Kevin Paffrath, a YouTube star, was leading over Larry Elder in a poll. So, Tom, it's a little confusing with all these polls that we're taking, but should we trust them?
Well, all of the polls are moving away from Newsom. So, yes, you should trust them to show that that's where the dynamic is going. There's a poll 51-40 in favor of it. There's polls consistently showing a majority of Latinos are in favor of it. That poll that you referred to with Kevin that asked about 6 Republicans and 1 Democrat and identified him as a Democrat. So that wasn't a very good question. But the Emerson poll says 58% of the people don't want him running next time. Look, Willie Brown says this is the fight of his life. You have others like Joe Garofoli of the Chronicles questioning his strategy. You have Carla Marinucci of Politico saying the money's not helping him. I had a big op-ed in Fox that talked about his lack of personal appeal, that he doesn't have friends. Why else doesn't he have commercials from local Californians? So look, no one thinks this is going to be easy, but no one said we could get the signatures. And as chairman of Rescue California, we did. This is going to be a tough fight. It has already sent a message, and we'll see how it plays out, but I'm confident he will be recalled.
Amanda, your thoughts on what Tom is saying, that the governor isn't appealing to most Californians. We have seen polls where it says that most Hispanics, over 50%, would recall the governor. Again, it's polling, and it's only a small sample. So do you feel that any of that has any truth serum to it?
Well, what I will say is that for a long period of time, there hasn't nearly been enough outreach to the Latino community. What you are seeing in census is you are seeing a growing Latino community that is engaging in politics, is engaging in all leadership levels in every single industry, and really coming into their own. And so the reality is, yeah, there needs to be more outreach in the Latino community, and there's a moment for education here. I do know that there's quite a few groups out there that are beginning the education process, and you can't do it enough. And so to the extent that Gavin Newsom needs to be connected to the community, he is doing it, but really it's still, I'll say this all across the board, all across the country, there needs to be much more outreach to the Latino community to educate them about their voice in every single election, including this one.
So, Amanda, I know Tom already said this, but do you think the governor is nervous?
I think it is smart to be nervous. Anytime you are running for office, particularly in a very uncertain time, you should be nervous, and you should be working hard to figure out how you're going to do outreach and reminding everyone there is a vote. I can't stress enough during these elections that are off presidential, that are special elections, it's incredibly difficult to break through the news. And so we will see in these next 5 to 6 weeks just exactly what his campaign team has in mind, because you will now begin to see it. As you get closer, it becomes more important to communicate.
You know, this last weekend, the state GOP had a chance to endorse any of the recall candidates. They decided not to. They decided that they're not going to endorse any of them. Tom, I'll start with you on this. I know you have a special relationship with this, and so you can't really answer the question. But go ahead and tell our viewers what that is, so how you can respond.
Well, I'm chairman of RescueCalifornia.org. We're the group that has raised and spent over $4.5 million to make sure this made the ballot. I'm also the ex-party chairman, but I publicly stated I didn't think an endorsement was proper, that it would just divide Republicans. There was no consensus among Republicans, and this is a very interesting race because if he is recalled on question 1, question 2, the winner doesn't have to get to 50%. And because Amanda decided not to run, there's no major Democrat in the race. And as a result, there doesn't need to be that sort of division. Look, I think that it's a sprint, which favors high name ID, and that may benefit people that are already in the public domain. Mm-hmm. But I didn't think there needs to be. What I do think, what I've told Republicans all along, if they want to be governor of this state, they have to pick practical solutions and talk to independents and Democrats and say how they could fix the water problem, not ideologically, but as a practical matter. Democrats are listening. A third of the Democrats want him out, or 30% or 25%. They're listening. You might as well give them a solution to a problem if you want to be the governor.
It's interesting you say that. Amanda, real quick, we got 30 seconds left. Your thoughts on the state GOP and, Newsom keeps calling it a Republican recall, but more Democrats have been polled.
Right. I mean, I think what the indication here is it's unclear where the Republicans are. I don't think it helps that they don't have a name that they're all surrounding or getting behind. I think that makes any race hard. But listen, when you look at what's happening in California versus other states, when you look at what's happening, for instance, in Florida, where mass mandates are rampant and where the governor has to put in a strike team to figure out how to get antibodies out there, the comparison of what Gavin has been doing here to try and make sure people are safe does really matter when people start to begin to think about how have we been affected as an economy and as a state. And on those metrics, he's doing pretty well. And I think people are going to take a look at that and say, should we actually change right now in the middle of things? And I think what you're going to find is Democrats are going to make sure that folks are, voting as they have in the past, but also really voting for making sure that he can actually push his agenda forward and make sure that we get through this pandemic in a way that really positions the state to do well going forward.
All right, Amanda Renteria, Tom Del Beccaro, thank you so much for your time. We'll talk to you soon. Up next, is the city of Fresno violating their own cannabis zoning laws, where a pot shop may be awarded a location too close to an elementary school? Fresno City Council member Mike Carbasi will join me next.